cosmic explorers. Welcome back to my blog, where astrology meets attitude. I'm Maya Cat, and today, we'll dive into the magic of autumn's celestial energies that will totally reboot your life. The stars aren't shouting this season, they're whispering. And if you listen closely, they're handing you a quiet, golden key. For every zodiac sign, this season holds a sacred shift. Not luck handed down, but joy gathered, like fallen leaves, warm in your hands, rustling with potential. Joining me as always is my trusted co-pilot Brian, ready to guide us through the stardust. Grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let him take it away. Brian, take the floor.
Thank you, Maya. You always bring the cosmic vibes. Let's talk about how these planetary movements will influence our lives, and why now is the perfect time to lean into their energy. This autumn, the stars have woven an extraordinary pattern across the heavens. Not every moment offers the chance to reshape your destiny, but these are precisely the ones we believe hold that power. That is why we present to you our Autumn Horoscope, carefully highlighting the most positive shifts for each zodiac sign, as if the cosmos itself had paused mid-spin to hand you a handwritten note. Here, this part, this is where you bloom. The stars are not a prophecy or a sentence. They are celestial whispers, soft, sly, and strangely tender, guiding you to recognize which waves to ride and which to let pass, like a wise old surfer who's seen 100 storms and still smiles at the sunrise. Life, after all, is like surfing, an endless ocean of motion where one wave follows another in perfect, indifferent rhythm. Yet not every surge demands your attention. Some are merely noise dressed in foam, while others hum with the quiet promise of landing softly on golden sand. Similarly, in astrology, avoid the turbulent crests that conceal hardship, the ones that look dramatic but leave you gasping, salt-stung and exhausted, and choose only those that carry you straight toward the shore of happiness, the kind that doesn't shout but sighs with relief when you finally step onto it barefoot. Your joy lies entirely in your own hands, not gifted, not decreed, but gathered like fallen leaves in autumn, warm and rustling with potential. So here begins our autumn outlook, offering each zodiac sign the profound opportunity to reboot their fate, not with fireworks but with quiet realignment, like tuning a well-loved instrument until it sings true again. May all of you find happiness, not the kind that comes with fanfare, but the deep, steady kind that settles into your bones and says, yes, this is where I was meant to be. So let's begin our review of the unique potentials offered by the autumn sky to each zodiac sign, where every soul holds its own powerful chance to fully reboot your fate. Learn how to switch the wind of your destiny from problems to happiness. Hey Aries! Listen Aries, because this isn't just astrology, this is your soul finally hitting the reset button after years of running on fumes and fake smiles. In September 2025, a lunar eclipse in Pisces will sweep across the heavens like a cosmic spa day you didn't book but desperately needed. One that dissolves old scripts faster than your ex's text thread after a third margarita. No fanfare, no warning, just silence where your inner critic used to scream like a broken alarm clock at 3 a.m. Some wake up and realize they haven't felt anxiety in weeks, as if someone unplugged the noise machine inside their head. Others feel an inexplicable urge to walk away from relationships that once felt like cozy sweaters, until you realize they were made of lead-lined wool. You didn't grow cold, you simply outgrew the costume. You, firebrand that you are, have always charged into life like a bull with a Wi-Fi password and zero patience. But now you must stand still, not to wait, not to hesitate, to witness. Ask yourself, and don't flinch, what is feeding your soul and what is just sucking your energy like a vampire who only drinks lukewarm tea? Your bullshit radar has been upgraded to military grade. The people who once dazzled you with charm and empty promises now look like amateur magicians trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat while standing on a treadmill. Their act isn't bad, it's just boring. And you're no longer willing to be the audience. The roles you played, The martyr, the fixer, the eternal therapist for emotionally constipated friends suddenly feel less like virtues and more like ill-fitting pajamas you wore for 10 years because it was easier. And then, quietly, without fireworks or tearful confessions, you just let go. Like dropping a heavy backpack you didn't know you were still carrying. Those who thought love had failed them, they're not grieving anymore. They're celebrating, because the eclipse didn't leave emptiness. It left space. Sacred, silent, glorious space. The kind you only find after years of screaming into pillows and wondering why your heart feels like a deflated balloon at a child's birthday party. And then, on September 12th, precisely at 9 a.m., when the sun kisses Jupiter in a celestial handshake so elegant it deserves its own perfume, everything shifts. Not with a bang, but with a click. The chaos quiets. The fog lifts. Suddenly you know exactly where to invest your time, who deserves your loyalty, and who should be politely archived like last season's TikTok trends. Jupiter winks. Money flows. Not like a flood, but like a well-placed Venmo transfer after you finally stopped chasing ghosts and started chasing ROI. Those who once ignored you, now they're sliding into your DMs like they forgot you were the one who actually paid for dinner that one time. Don't mistake this for luck. These are the seeds planted in spring, now blooming under the kind of sunlight that doesn't ask permission. It just shows up. And then comes Venus in Virgo, the universe's most elegant, merciless therapist. She doesn't do grand gestures, she does spreadsheets of the heart. Minor irritations? They're not quirks anymore. They're red flags waving like tiny angry flags at a protest organized by your subconscious. Passion still there. But now it's being asked, is this connection nourishing you or just keeping you warm while you freeze inside? For you, Aries, whose love language is usually I'll fight your battles and then argue about whose turn it is to wash the dishes, this feels like being handed a pair of ice skates on a desert. But here's the twist. You weren't meant to glide gracefully. You were meant to shatter the illusion. The ones clinging to fading sparks in relationships that lost their spark 5 seasons ago. They're not broken hearts. They're stubborn batteries refusing to die. And you're done pretending that half-hearted affection counts as love. Your honesty, sharp, unvarnished, occasionally blunt enough to cut glass, becomes your superpower, not because it's cruel, but because it's true. And truth, my dear warrior, is the only thing that lasts when the glitter falls off. Old flames, exes, ghosts from Tinder's forgotten archive, they'll reappear. Maybe they'll send a meme. Maybe they'll show up at your favorite coffee shop wearing the same hoodie they wore during your deeply meaningful breakup talk. Don't panic. Don't replay the past. Aries doesn't choose based on nostalgia. We choose based on actions. Did they show up? Did they change? Or did they just reheat last year's emotional leftovers and call it romance? If it's the latter, pour yourself another cup of tea and maybe a new life. Then, September 23rd, the sun dances with Uranus while Neptune tries to convince everyone that reality is just a suggestion. The illusions? Gone. Vanished. Like your motivation to attend another Zoom happy hour where everyone says I'm fine while secretly crying into their kombucha. You stare at your reflection and whisper, why am I still here? Why am I still tolerating this? And for the first time, you don't have an answer. Because the answer isn't in your head anymore, it's in your bones. You stop asking questions, you start walking. And every time you ignore the gossip, the snide comments, the passive-aggressive texts, you rise, not because you won, but because you refuse to play their game. The applause, irrelevant, you never needed it. You were born to move forward, alone, unafraid, unstoppable. Someone who postponed changing careers for 7 years, lands a dream job in 3 weeks. A woman trapped in a marriage that felt like a slow-motion hostage situation, walks out, breathes, actually breathes. For the first time since 2018, this isn't magic, it's cosmic house cleaning. And you're the one holding the mop. September 24th arrives like a thunderclap wrapped in velvet gloves. Mars squares Pluto, and oh, sweet chaos, the power plays begin. Betrayals bloom like toxic mushrooms after rain. A partner steals your idea, a friend claims your insight as their own, a colleague turns your vulnerability into office gossip. Jealousy, oh yes, especially when you're ascending and they're stuck in the elevator with no floor buttons. But here's the secret, fighting back is the trap. Explaining yourself, exhausting, proving you're right, pathetic. The only reply worth making? Silence, then action, a promotion, a launch, a boundary drawn in neon. Let your results scream louder than their resentment. Waste no breath on those who can't see your light because they've long since turned off their own lamps. And then, September 25th. The final purge. Mars in Scorpio, square retrograde Pluto in Aquarius. The universe's way of saying enough with the drama, time to upgrade your operating system. The last bits of poison, the resentment, the self-sabotage, the habits that kept you numb, looking at you 3 a.m. doom scrolling and overpriced wine, evaporate like sweat on a desert highway. Your body exhales, your sleep returns, your appetite stops being a cry for help disguised as comfort food. You shed old circles like a snake shedding skin, not with pain but with profound relief. Aquarius whispers, freedom isn't a hashtag, it's your birthright, and for the first time you believe it. You stop running, not because you're tired, but because you finally know where you're going. No need to justify it, no need to explain, no need to beg anyone to understand. You move, clean, quiet, certain, because you can, because you're ready. By month's end, a new version of you emerges. Not loud, not flashy, not begging for approval, just real, quietly powerful, unshakably aligned. Everything you build from here. It grows from decisions made in this sacred, silent crucible. Not from old wounds, not from fear, not from the ghost of who you used to be. So Aries, you thought it was just a lunar eclipse. It wasn't. It was your soul rebooting. Ignore it and you'll keep tripping over the same emotional landmines. Walk away and you'll keep stepping on the same broken glass. But if you awaken, if you truly, deeply, gloriously say, this ends now, then my fierce, fiery, beautifully uncompromising friend, there is no going back. And you wouldn't want to. Hey Taurus, October 2025 isn't just a month. It's the cosmic equivalent of your closet finally collapsing under the weight of last year's sweaters, expired gift cards, and that one pair of shoes you swore you'd wear someday. The universe, with the subtlety of a therapist who's seen it all, gently says, honey, you're not carrying that anymore. All those relationships that felt like emotional duct tape holding together pieces of you that stopped fitting decades ago, suddenly unravel without a single scream. The old conflicts, the silent betrayals, the expectations whispered by relatives who think your worth is measured in how often you show up for Sunday dinner, they don't vanish. They evaporate like cheap perfume in a sauna. 5 precise celestial maneuvers act less like astrology and more like a high-end detox retreat run by gods with impeccable timing. No juicing, no crystals, just pure, unapologetic deletion of everything that drained you. The first tremor arrives when the moon, ever the moody Taurus daughter, curls up beside Jupiter in Cancer. A cozy trine is so gentle it feels like your soul exhaling after holding its breath since 2019. No fireworks, no dramatic monologues, just quiet. You wake up and realize you don't want to argue with your partner about whose turn it is to take out the trash. You don't flinch at your boss's passive-aggressive email. You sit in silence, sipping tea, and wonder why you ever thought any of this mattered. It wasn't healing, it was surrender. And suddenly the ghosts of past failures, the job you lost, the friend who ghosted, the love that left you whispering, what if, into pillows, don't haunt you anymore. They've been downgraded from lead roles to background extras in a movie you stopped watching. Jupiter, ever the generous uncle with a wallet full of second chances, doesn't hand you back your reputation on a silver platter. He nudges you toward one text, one call, one simple, hey, I'm sorry I disappeared. And guess what? The other person has been waiting. They're tired too. The family dinners still happen, but now there's space between the arguments. The air doesn't crackle with tension, it hums softly like a refrigerator that's finally been cleaned out. You feel lighter, not ecstatic, not euphoric, just unburdened, like you've shed a wool coat you wore all summer because someone told you it looked professional. But then the snake slithers in. Not with fangs, but with a raised eyebrow. If someone you trusted, a colleague, an aunt, a friend who always just wants what's best for you, starts dropping little bombs disguised as advice. You seem different lately. Almost too calm. Translation? I miss when you were emotionally available for my drama. These aren't enemies, they're relics. People who thrived on your chaos, your guilt, your people-pleasing ballet. Their discomfort is your liberation. Don't explain, don't defend, don't even look them in the eye. Let them stew in their own unease. The snake is watching. He's not here to punish you. He's here to see if you've learned to say no without apologizing for breathing. Then, on October 12th, Venus slips into Libra like a woman stepping into her power heels after years in flip-flops. She looks around the room, your relationships, your boundaries, your self-worth, and says, enough. No more bending yourself into origami cranes to fit into spaces that never asked for you. Women feel it physically, the exhaustion of pretending to be fine while holding a toddler, a toxic ex, and a resentful mother-in-law in one arm. Men? They finally stop begging for approval, like puppies hoping for scraps. The truth hits like cold water. If they're taking more than they give, they're not your partner. They're your energy vampire. And vampires? They don't get a vote. The snake doesn't smash the relationship, he just turns off the lights. Sometimes divorce follows, sometimes reconciliation. Clean, quiet, honest, but only if you set the rules. Otherwise, you're just reheating last season's leftovers. And then, the friends who used to be your lifelines become anchors. You look at them and realize they're not your tribe, they're your emotional baggage claim. You don't leave them in a tantrum, you leave them in a sigh. You change your city, your wardrobe, your Instagram aesthetic, not because you're trying to be someone new, but because the old version of you was running on fumes and bad coffee. And as you walk away, doors swing open. Not because you knocked, but because you stopped begging to be let in. New connections arrive like well-timed Uber rides, a mentor at a conference, a wealthy stranger who says, "Let me introduce you," or a man who doesn't flirt, he invests. Not in romance, in potential, in your business, in your peace. This isn't magic, it's mathematics. When you stop being a doormat, the world starts treating you like a threshold. On October 14th, Venus dances with Pluto in Aquarius, a trine so potent it rewrites your financial DNA. Suddenly, money stops being a mystery and becomes a conversation. That side hustle you ignored, it's now profitable. That debt you buried, paid back with interest. That client who ghosted you for 2 years sends a check with a note. I owe you. The snake gifts you 3 superpowers. First, cold selectivity. You stop inviting everyone to your table. Only those who bring wine, not drama. Second, unshakable self-worth. You walk into a room and people sense you're not asking permission to exist. Third, indifference to gossip. Yes, they'll talk. Yes, they'll whisper. But you? You're already halfway to Bali, sipping coconut water, wondering why you ever cared. Then comes October 24th. The sun in Scorpio squares Pluto in Aquarius. And the universe throws open the attic door. Everything you pretended didn't exist, there it is. Your boss's secret resentment, your partner's silent contempt, your own habit of shrinking to avoid conflict. Revelations come like uninvited guests at Thanksgiving, loud, uncomfortable, and impossible to ignore. Workplace politics explode into daylight. People who hid behind titles are exposed as freeloaders. You're not being attacked, you're being clarified. The snake doesn't rescue you. He stands back, arms crossed, and says, "So, are you ready to take your power back?" You learn 2 final lessons. Detachment, not indifference, but the grace of watching drama unfold without becoming part of it. And resolve, not rage, but the quiet certainty that some chapters end not with a bang, but with a soft click of the lid closing. And then, October 28. Mars in Scorpio embraces Jupiter in Cancer, and suddenly effort turns to momentum. Your willpower isn't fiery, it's deep, tectonic, ancient. You don't chase success, you attract it. Projects that stalled for years now roll forward like freight trains with GPS. Clients find you, promotions appear, you stop saying "I hope" and start saying "I will." If you work for someone else, you stop being the quiet one in the corner, you speak up, you negotiate, you demand respect, not with anger, but with the calm authority of someone who knows she's already won. Sleep returns, energy surges, hormones realign like synchronized swimmers. You stop burning out because you finally stop pouring yourself into leaky buckets. The snake doesn't just visit in November, he moves in. On November 29th, he enters Jupiter's domain, and your entire inner architecture shifts. Your birth date might flicker, your time zone might glitch. You won't be the same Taurus who believed stability meant staying put. You'll be something fiercer, precision over persistence, depth over devotion, autonomy over allegiance. The patient builder? Gone. In his place, the chooser, the liberated leader, the one who walks away from comfort to find purpose. This isn't transformation, it's resurrection, with better lighting and 0 apologies. In the autumn of 2025, Gemini, you, the cosmic chatterbox with a mind that runs on caffeine and quantum physics, step into a season so perfectly aligned it feels like the universe finally hit mute on everyone who ever tried to talk over you. Mercury, your celestial wingman, reaches its zenith like a genius finishing a PhD while sipping espresso and solving world hunger between sips. Uranus, the mischief maker in your corner, winks and says, "Let's see how they handle this." And Venus, she sweeps through your personal kingdom like a Zen interior designer who just discovered emotional hoarding is a crime, and she's here to declutter your soul with a velvet-gloved fist. The result? All those people who once mistook your kindness for weakness, your wit for entertainment, and your silence for consent, are now flailing like pigeons caught in a wind tunnel of their own making. Karma doesn't throw rocks, it rearranges the furniture. And suddenly your freedom isn't a dream you whispered to your pillow at 3 a.m. It's a signed lease, fully paid, with your name in bold. On September 12th, as Mercury in Virgo high-fives Jupiter in Cancer, your inner monologue transforms from a chaotic podcast with too many guests into a TED Talk delivered by a Nobel laureate who also happens to be your most ruthless therapist. You stop hearing the noise, not because you're deaf, but because you've upgraded your mental firewall. You're too sensitive, they say. Ah yes, the classic guilt trip disguise. Your brilliance is hurting my fragile ego. Be softer, they plead, as if your intellect were a light dimmer switch they could turn down to suit their nap time. Not anymore. Your thoughts are no longer open-plan offices where strangers drop in uninvited. They are private vaults with biometric locks, laser grids, and a sign that reads, "No pity parties, no unpaid emotional labor, no exceptions." A colleague who stole your ideas, now he's Googling how to explain my lack of originality to HR. A partner who called control intimacy. He's sitting alone on the couch, wondering why his favorite blanket smells like indifference. A friend who called toxic venting soul-deep connection. You've muted them so thoroughly they think you've moved to Mars, and you didn't even raise your voice. You simply stopped being their human Wi-Fi router. Their entire system crashes. Not because you fought, because you withdrew the signal. And oh, how the lights go out when the power source walks away. By the 15th, Venus in Virgo teams up with Mars in Cancer, and suddenly your home, your sanctuary, your nest, your sacred clutter-filled temple is no longer a public hostel for emotional freeloaders. You look around and realize that cousin who treated your sofa like a reclining throne, gone. That neighbor who borrowed your lawnmower and never returned it, or your dignity, vanished. That partner who made your bedroom feel like a therapy session with no end date. They're now sleeping in the garage, surrounded by boxes labeled "things I thought were shared." This isn't cruelty, it's architecture. You didn't build walls, you rebuilt your foundation. And suddenly, "I need space" doesn't sound like a request, it sounds like a legal notice. You stop negotiating boundaries because you've realized boundaries aren't suggestions, they're zoning laws. And you, dear Gemini, are now mayor of your own sovereign state, with zero tolerance for emotional squatting. You don't yell, you don't cry, you just stop answering texts. And the silence? It echoes louder than any scream. Those who fed off your patience now find themselves starving in a pantry you've locked with a password only your self-respect knows. Then comes September 18th, the day your brain becomes a Swiss watch crossed with a hedge fund. Mercury in Libra, elegant and calculating, dances trine with Uranus in your own sign and Pluto in Aquarius, and suddenly your mind isn't just sharp, it's lethal. Financially, you stop chasing opportunities like a dog after squirrels. You design them. You close accounts used to bleed you dry. You stop funding other people's dreams like you're running a non-profit for entitled strangers. You start tracking expenses, not in your head where they'd sneak in like uninvited house guests, but in a spreadsheet titled "My Life, My Rules, My Money." And then, the miracles arrive. A job appears out of nowhere. No resume, no interview, just a LinkedIn message that says, "We've been waiting for you." An idea you joked about at brunch, suddenly it's trending. A side hustle you abandoned last year. It's now generating passive income like a well-trained golden retriever fetching bills. There's no magic here, only speed. While others are still drafting emails, you've already launched, scaled, and invoiced. Your competitors don't lose to you. They get left behind in the dust of their own slow-motion thinking. One guy spent 3 years trying to block your access to resources. He files paperwork on October 1st. You've already moved to a new country. Another partner who delayed payments for 5 years. He gets an email with the subject line, "Final notice, also I'm buying a yacht." And the colleague who stole your ideas, he finds out they're patented under your name. When he tries to pitch them to investors, cue the awkward silence. This isn't revenge, it's momentum. You didn't leap ahead, you accelerated time itself. They're still stuck in dial-up. You're streaming in 8K. And then, on September 20th, Venus squares Uranus while the Sun glares at Saturn in Pisces, the final act of cosmic justice, written in neon, sung by angels, and delivered with a smirk. What was hanging on by a thread snapped. What was pretending to be real exposed. You stopped performing roles that drained you like a vampire at a blood bank convention. You stopped being the family therapist, the emotional ATM, the person who always remembers birthdays but never gets one herself. You stopped saying, "I'm fine," when you mean, "I'm dying quietly," in a room full of people who think fine is a personality trait. If someone in your life manipulates, gaslights, or treats your compassion like a buffet, goodbye, not with drama, not with tears, with the quiet elegance of a door closing on a ghost. And if you're a male Gemini who's been single but ready, buckle up. Uranus doesn't do slow burns, it does lightning strikes. One moment you're scrolling through dating apps, the next you're staring at a woman who walked into your coffee shop wearing your exact sense of humor and a jacket you've dreamed about. No flirting, no texting, just mutual recognition, like two chess grandmasters who've been playing the same game across lifetimes. If you're partnered and the spark has turned to smoldering resentment, say it clearly, say it without apology. Intimate incompatibility isn't a flaw, it's a red flag waving in a hurricane. And if they won't change, then leave. Fast, like a cat escaping a bath. For all Geminis, the breakup isn't the point, the realization is. You don't mourn what no longer serves you. You thank it for the lesson, hand it a suitcase, and wave goodbye as it trips over its own ego on the way out. Forgiveness? Only if it's earned. Betrayal? Especially when it's systematic, repeated, dressed up as just how they are. That's not a relationship. That's a tax write-off for your soul. And if they come crawling back with tearful apologies and half-baked promises, don't lecture, don't scold, don't offer wisdom, just smile politely, lock the door and whisper, "I'm not angry, I'm just done." The gates of retribution? Closed. The chains of obligation? Shattered. The ghosts of people who used your laughter as background music, your intelligence as a free consulting service, your heart as a punching bag for their insecurities. They're now dust motes dancing in sunlight you no longer care to illuminate. You breathe deeper now. You sleep longer. You laugh louder. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped carrying the weight of everyone else's unresolved trauma. You no longer justify. You no longer save. You no longer apologize for existing in full color, while others insisted you stay in grayscale. The space is cleared. The air is clean. The future, it's yours to build. So go ahead. Build something magnificent. And for heaven's sake, don't let anyone ask for a seat at your table unless they brought their own damn chair. Hey Cancer, dear crabs, gather your shells and brace yourselves, because in September 2025, the universe isn't knocking, it's kicking down the door with a crowbar made of cosmic lightning screaming, "Enough!" This isn't a gentle nudge toward self-discovery, no. This is the grand, glittering, slightly chaotic demolition of everything you've clung to out of fear, guilt, or that stubbornly misplaced belief that love means martyrdom. The ground beneath you doesn't shift, it evaporates. And what rises from the ashes? Not a better version of your old life, but a new one, forged in the fire of brutal honesty, whispered not in therapy sessions, but in the quiet, unapologetic slam of a door you finally closed. On September 4th at precisely 10:59 p.m. Moscow time, when most of us are either scrolling through cat videos or wondering if we left the stove on, Mars, the impatient warrior in your emotional backyard, squares Jupiter, the over-enthusiastic party host who just spilled wine on your favorite rug. The result? A cosmic reboot of your identity through the people you once called family, lovers, besties, or that one cousin who still owes me $300. You thought holding on was loyalty. Turns out it was just emotional hoarding. Now, Mars in Cancer doesn't ask you to be soft. It demands you be strong, not the brittle kind that cracks under pressure, but the kind that bends without breaking, like a crab who knows when to scuttle sideways and when to pinch. You'll look around at relationships that have been slowly draining you like a leaky faucet in a flooded bathroom, and you'll whisper, "What am I even getting here?" And if the answer is silence, stale hugs, and unpaid emotional labor, you walk. Not dramatically, not with tears, just calmly, like someone turning off an alarm clock they've been snoozing for 10 years. For the first time in decades, you say aloud, "Now it's my turn to live." And Jupiter, ever the cheerleader, yells back, "Finally! Let's make this count!" Your first house. the one that holds your face, your voice, your very being, is now spotlighted. Your seventh, the one that mirrors your partnerships, is being X-rayed. Toxic ties, even those wrapped in holiday cards and birthday cakes, are being surgically removed. You'll sit across from your mother, your partner, your childhood friend and say, that thing you did, that thing you keep pretending didn't happen, yeah, it happened and it hurt. No sugarcoating, no, I'm sure you didn't mean it, just truth, raw and glittering like a seashell found after a storm. You stop pouring tea into other people's empty cups while yours runs dry. You learn the sacred mantra, I give, I receive. No more volunteering as emotional janitor for people who don't even thank you. They just leave socks on the floor. Your home becomes your sanctuary, not a museum of other people's expectations, but a cozy, slightly messy nest that smells like lavender, old books, and freedom. If you're a Cancer ascendant, get ready. Your vibe shifts. You stop smiling to be polite. You stop apologizing for existing. People will notice, some will panic, others will finally see you. Picture her, a woman who spent 20 years folding herself into smaller and smaller shapes to fit everyone else's idea of good daughter, perfect wife, reliable auntie. One evening she sits at her kitchen table with a blank sheet of paper and writes, "This week, I'm taking a bath without checking my phone. This month, I'm buying the red dress. This year, I'm moving to the seaside apartment with the crooked staircase. And no, I won't explain why." The next morning, she deletes 3 family group chats. She cancels Thanksgiving. She repaints the living room in deep ocean blue. Her smile? Gone. In its place, a gaze so calm, so utterly unbothered that even the cat stops purring and gives her space. When she speaks, the room listens. When she's quiet, everyone holds their breath, because now silence isn't weakness, it's power dressed in silk pajamas. And him? The man who carried the weight of 3 generations like a backpack full of bricks and unpaid bills. He never said no, never took vacation, never bought himself anything bigger than a toothbrush. Until one day he looked in the mirror and realized his reflection had become a ghost wearing his face. The cross of Ophiuchus doesn't whisper to men like him. It roars, "Stop saving them, start saving yourself." So he does. He stops paying for his brother's gambling debts. He stops fixing his ex-wife's car. He stops being the family's human ATM with emotional Wi-Fi. He buys a guitar, takes a course on marine biology, starts saying no with such serene finality that his relatives think he's been replaced by a robot, but a very attractive, well-rested robot who now sleeps past 7 a.m. Then comes September 13th, Mars slips into Libra, and suddenly love and friendship are put on trial. No more pretending your relationship is fine because we have kids. No more tolerating friends who only text you when they need a favor or a free meal. The 5th house of joy kicks open the door, and if joy isn't there, out you go. Women who stayed for tradition now feel the hollow echo of a marriage that's been a silent film since 2012. Men who hid behind stoicism realized their silence wasn't strength, it was cowardice disguised as dignity. And then, the magic. Flirtation returns. Laughter echoes again. There's dancing in the kitchen, real talk over wine. Passion isn't resurrected, it's reimagined, matured, stripped of drama and dressed in mutual respect. You stop performing love, you start living it. For lunar crabs, the ones who clung to dead loves like security blankets, you're about to experience a spiritual defibrillator. All those what-ifs and maybe some days get tossed into a bonfire made of old letters, forgotten voicemails, and the last bottle of champagne you saved for a celebration that never came. You don't mourn the loss, you celebrate the liberation. 3 steps: admit it's over, cut the toxic cords, redirect every ounce of energy into what lights you up. Women speak, men vanish into focused solitude. Either way, you emerge not broken but built. September 19th arrives, Uranus trines Pluto. The universe whispers, let's upgrade your brain. Suddenly, your intuition, which you used to call overthinking or too sensitive, becomes your 6th sense, your fortune teller, your financial oracle. That gut feeling about the client, hire them. That weird hunch about the online course, enroll. That quiet voice saying, stop working for free. Stop! You stop clinging to stability like a life raft in a tsunami. Instead, you build a yacht with solar panels, a hot tub, and a bar stocked with your favorite whiskey. Your income, it doesn't come from grinding, it comes from being. From trusting your knack for sensing where trust blooms. You sell your wisdom, you teach your sensitivity, you monetize your soul, and yes, dear crab, you get paid, handsomely. But beware, Uranus has a flair for the dramatic. If you're thinking of buying a house, investing in crypto, or impulsively adopting a second cat during this window, pause, breathe, consult your spreadsheet. Don't let emotion buy your future. Pluto, meanwhile, digs into your deepest fears. I'm not good enough. I'll be alone. I don't deserve this. It drags them out, naked and squirming, and says, look at them. Aren't they ridiculous? Then it hands you a mop, clean up, move on. And then the finale, September 23rd, the sun opposes Neptune, the masks shatter, the fakes dissolve, the friend who stole your secrets and sold them to the neighborhood gossip hive vanishes, the colleague who smiled while sabotaging your promotion disappears like a soap bubble in a hurricane, the cousin who borrowed your car and never returned it or apologized, poof, gone. Not because you chased them out, but because the universe, in its divine poetic justice, flipped their own boomerangs right into their faces. Their lies crumble, their reputations dust, their attempts to drain you, met with doors locked, texts unanswered, and silence so thick it could muffle a choir. You stand there, calm, clear, radiant, not because you're perfect, but because you finally stopped trying to be everyone else's miracle worker. The spaces they left, filled with people who bring you tea without asking. Projects that excite you. Partners who look at you like you're the whole damn galaxy. So here we are, dear crabs. The cross of Ophiuchus didn't come to break you. It came to unbreak you. To take all the things you were told were weaknesses, your tenderness, your depth, your fierce loyalty, your uncanny ability to feel everything twice as hard, and forge them into armor, into weapons, into wings. You are no longer the keeper of other people's comfort. You are the architect of your own joy, and this time you're building it to last. Hey Leo, lions, listen closely because the cosmos has stopped whispering and has begun to roar with the kind of theatrical flair only a snake-wielding deity can muster. October 2025 isn't a gentle nudge from the universe. It's the cosmic equivalent of someone kicking open your front door, tossing your old excuses into a bonfire and handing you a crystal-clear mirror while saying, yes, that's really you, and no, the glitter on your shoulder isn't magic. It's the residue of someone else's manipulation. For years, you've carried the weight of self-doubt like an overpacked suitcase full of unpaid bills, half-written love letters, and a pet rock named Hope that never did anything but sit there judging you. All of it, every whispered lie, every financial blockade disguised as waiting for the right time, every relationship that felt less like a partnership and more like a one-way emotional toll booth is evaporating, not slowly, not gently, like smoke in a hurricane. And then, just when you think you've caught your breath, Ophiuchus, the forgotten serpent-bearer, the Zodiac's most misunderstood rebel, slips into Jupiter's embrace on November 29th. And suddenly the entire celestial rulebook is shredded, set ablaze, and used as kindling for a very expensive, very necessary barbecue. The dates you've clung to since childhood, gone. July 23rd, a myth. August 22nd, a rumor spread by confused astrologers who still use abacuses. Your true solar sign? Now precisely, elegantly, unapologetically, August 10th to September 16th. No more, I'm kinda Leo, but also a little Cancer because I cry at dog commercials. No more pretending you're a Virgo when you just really like color-coded spreadsheets. You're now exactly who the stars have always meant you to be. No filters, no fluff, no fuzzy astrology from the 90s that told you were born under a star that wasn't even visible from your balcony. October begins with Mercury in Libra, sharpening your tongue like a sword, forged in the fires of last year's unresolved group texts. Suddenly, you hear the difference between I'll help you and I'll say I'll help you while quietly stealing your Wi-Fi password. Sentimentality? Out. Kindness without boundaries? Cancelled. Ophiuchus doesn't care if you baked cookies for the office. You didn't get a thank you note. You got a LinkedIn connection request from someone who wants to collaborate on your soul. But here's the twist. This isn't cruelty, it's liberation. Every conversation becomes a diagnostic scan. People who speak in vague poetry are exposed as corporate vampires. Those who show up with facts, not flattery, become your new inner circle. And lionesses, oh darling, you will finally learn how to listen so deeply that people confess their sins before they finish their coffee. You'll hear the tremor beneath the compliment, the pause before the lie, the sigh that says, I'm using you as emotional wallpaper. Boundaries aren't walls anymore, they're velvet ropes at a VIP party where only the authentic get invited. Then comes Venus, dancing through Libra like a goddess who just discovered truth serum and decided to pour it into everyone's champagne flute. Old arguments don't heal, they dissolve, like sugar in hot tea, because honesty has become too delicious to ignore. If someone returns, it's because they missed your light, not your wallet. If they leave, it's because you outgrew their emotional IKEA furniture, flat pack, unassembled, and permanently unsatisfying. For lion men, offers arrive, partnerships, promotions, proposals. But beware the sycophants clinging to your coattails like lost puppies wearing Gucci collars. They don't love you, they love your aura, your reputation, your ability to pay for dinner while looking noble doing it. Approach them with the amused skepticism of a cat watching a dog try to climb a tree. Love is not a loyalty program, it's not a favor you owe, it's a mutual ignition of souls. And if yours isn't sparking, then please, for the love of all that is sacred and slightly sarcastic, let go. October 17th arrives like a therapist with a PhD in cosmic trauma and zero patience for your excuses. The Sun squares Jupiter in Cancer, forcing you to stare into the abyss of your own exhaustion, not the tired kind, but the soul-deep fatigue that comes from pretending you're fine while secretly believing you're a glitch in the universe's software. You've been carrying guilt for things you didn't do, shame for feelings you couldn't name, and a quiet, nagging voice that whispers, "You're not enough." Well, guess what? That voice was hired by a former roommate who moved out in 2018 and never paid rent. The spotlight doesn't judge, it illuminates. And what you see isn't failure, it's foundation. This isn't breakdown, it's breakthrough dressed in pajamas and crying into a mug of chamomile tea that tastes like redemption. On October 24th, Pluto and the Sun lock eyes across the Scorpio-Aquarius divide, and suddenly every relationship that survived on inertia, fear, or passive-aggressive holiday cards shatters, like a cheap vase dropped from a fifth-floor balcony. Partnerships that were held together by shared silence, gone. Friendships built on mutual resentment disguised as "we've known each other since college," evaporated. Workplace alliances where you did 90% of the work and they did 100% of the credit, dissolved into polite LinkedIn messages and a single emoji. This isn't heartbreak, it's hygiene. You're not losing people, you're decluttering your soul's closet, and yes, it hurts. But imagine walking into 2026 without dragging behind you the ghost of someone who called you strong while quietly draining your bank account of joy. That's freedom, that's power. That's the sound of chains falling off one by one like poorly tied shoelaces at a yoga retreat. And then, October 28th, Mars in Scorpio, trining Jupiter in Cancer, and suddenly the heavens throw open the vaults, money flows, contracts sign themselves. That project you shelved because the timing wasn't right, it finds its way back to you, blinking like a newborn kitten in sunlight. The blocks weren't real, they were mental fog created by a version of you who believed scarcity was a personality trait. Now, you move, you act, you follow through. And the universe, weary of your hesitation, finally says, "Fine, if you're going to show up, I'll meet you halfway with interest." This isn't luck, it's law. The cosmos rewards those who stop waiting for permission and start writing their own contracts. But the final bow, the curtain call, the moment when the entire Zodiac gasps, drops its clipboard and says, "Wait, we've been doing this wrong." That's November 29th. Ophiuchus steps onto the stage, adjusts his serpent crown and declares himself the 13th sign, not as a rebellion but as a correction. The old calendar, archived. The outdated charts, recycled. Your birth chart, now as accurate as a GPS calibrated by ancient astronomers who knew where the stars actually lived. No more, "I thought I was a Leo, but my moon says I'm a Pisces and my ascendant thinks I'm a Capricorn trying to be a librarian." You are now unequivocally, gloriously, beautifully you, and for the first time in decades, the sky agrees, so lions breathe. You're no longer lost in translation, you're no longer borrowing someone else's destiny, you're home. Hey Virgo, this is your moment, September to October 2025. And for the first time in nearly 1.5 centuries, 4 extraordinary cosmic alignments converge upon your destiny, demanding nothing less than your full conscious participation. Waiting is over. What unfolds in these months will shape the trajectory of your life for the next 14 years. For decades, the universe has whispered to you through subtle signs, But now it roars directly into the core of your power, your relationships, your values, your career, and the unshakable inner foundation you've long neglected. The question isn't whether change is coming, it's whether you're ready to meet it face to face. If you are, then let it begin. On September 15th, Venus forms a harmonious sextile with Mars, a rare celestial spark that ignites dormant energy within you. This is not mere inspiration, it is a visceral awakening. Love no longer asks for longing, desire no longer tolerates delay, and ambition demands action. You'll feel it as an undeniable inner command, enough waiting. Where you once hesitated, analyzing every possible outcome, you will suddenly move without overthinking, without apology. If there's someone you've admired but never approached, you'll find the courage to reach out. If a project has lingered in your mind for years, your hands will instinctively begin building it. If your days have dulled into routine, you'll crave color, pleasure, vitality, not as indulgences, but as necessities for survival. For the typical Virgo, accustomed to measuring every step with precision, this intensity may feel overwhelming, even dangerous. But they understand this alignment doesn't destroy, it expands. It does not invite chaos, it invites movement. And if Venus or Mars resides in an earth sign, especially Capricorn, you stand at the threshold of a transformation so profound it redefines how you relate, how you desire, how you lead. Those with Libra or Aries rising will feel this shift most acutely in partnership and personal initiative. And if Mercury aspects Venus in your chart, words will finally become deeds. Promises will turn into realities. Take small steps toward what you truly want. Movement itself is the miracle. Speak honestly about your needs. Allow yourself joy without guilt. Love and pleasure are not luxuries, they are fuel for the future. On this day, fate hands you a match. What fire will you choose to light? Old grievances or new possibilities? The flame you ignite here could blaze brightly through 2039. But on September 20th, the heavens strike again. Venus squares Uranus while the Sun opposes Saturn. This is not a spark, it is lightning. Two powerful configurations collide simultaneously, shattering illusions in love, finances, and your deepest sense of self. This configuration hasn't occurred in 150 years. Remember, every transit, however jarring, leads you toward a happiness uniquely yours, not the one others expect, but the one only you can claim. Venus square Uranus brings sudden upheavals, unexpected revelations, abrupt endings, financial shocks, and relationships that collapse under the weight of unspoken truths. Meanwhile, the Sun opposing Saturn tests your resilience. Can you withstand pressure without bending? Can you defend your boundaries when the world insists you conform? Virgos will feel this as the ground beneath them giving way. Structures you built carefully, your routines, your roles, your expectations will crack open. You may be handed ultimatums, obey the rules or walk away. Internally, a war may erupt between duty and freedom, between obligation and authenticity. Those with Venus or the Sun in fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, will endure the deepest blows to their self-worth and personal identity. If your natal Saturn rests in Virgo or Pisces, this is a karmic reckoning for maturity. If your ascendant is in Virgo or Capricorn, authority, status, and responsibility will demand painful clarity. How do you survive this? First, release what is dying. What breaks was already broken. Second, learn to say no, even if it feels like your world will end, only the illusion will fall. Third, stop searching for blame. Search instead for opportunity. Uranus takes only to give something better. Fourth, honor Saturn's call. Respond with discipline, not panic, with clarity, not fear. The greatest risk? Clinging desperately to a collapsing system. If you do, the next 14 years will be spent patching holes in other people's lives. The greatest gift? Letting go. Uranus severs chains. Saturn tests your strength. If you endure, you rise onto a far stronger path, one you build yourself, free from illusions, dependencies, and false obligations. September 20th becomes the fault line in your life. Everything before and everything after. Then, on October 1st, Mercury enters Libra, the ruler of your sign, stepping onto the central stage of your destiny. This is not merely a month of conversations. It is the beginning of a 14-year contract written in truth, balance, and integrity. Every word you speak, every agreement you make, every boundary you set from this point forward will echo into 2039. Mercury in Libra demands diplomacy, but not the kind that silences you for peace. True diplomacy is speaking clearly enough to be heard, even when it risks discomfort. No more sacrificing yourself to keep others comfortable. From now on, your yes and no carry the weight of decades. Relationships, contracts, alliances, you formalize them now and they define your future. Balance is your final exam. If you revert to old patterns of serving, enduring, suppressing, fate will lock you into a 14-year cycle of quiet resentment. But if you choose honesty and equality first for yourself, you will attract allies who stand beside you, not behind you. Women, hear this. No more connections where you're valued only for reliability, not for your soul. If respect is absent, let it dissolve. That emptiness is not loss. It's space being cleared for a bond where your worth is seen unconditionally. Men, listen. The era of stoicism, of hiding pain behind silence, of playing the Iron Man is over. Your voice is your key. It either builds trust or shatters it. Partners who relied on your endless patience will face a new reality. You no longer bend. Either they rise to meet you as equals or they leave. At work, collaboration will be offered, but only on equal terms. No more carrying 70% while others coast. Inside the family, imbalances will surface. Who gives, who takes? And you, Virgo, will finally say, "Stop, my voice matters. My time is sacred." Everything you decide now works not for weeks, but for years. Mercury in Libra has signed a covenant with your fate, and on October 6th, Mercury enters Scorpio, and everything changes again. Now, words are no longer polite exchanges, they are X-rays. Surface pleasantries vanish. What rises now cannot be hidden, denied, or softened. This is the revelation you've been avoiding for years. Hidden motives, unspoken resentments, exploitative dynamics all come to light. A colleague who benefited from your labor says, "We managed fine without you." A partner admits, "It was easier when you carried everything." These truths sting, but they are liberation. They cut through the fog of illusion and force you to see what was always there. Solar Virgos will confront the collapse of their identity as the indispensable organizer, the one who fixes everything. Will you cling to the image of perfection or allow yourself to be human, to want, to rest, to choose? Ascendant Virgos will face a direct challenge from the world. Stop performing. People will no longer accept your polished masks. They will demand your raw, real presence, or they will walk away. Lunar Virgos will experience an emotional earthquake. Years of suppressed tears, rage, grief, and longing will surge forth. Don't suppress them. Cry if you must, rage if you need to, admit what you've buried. Your emotions are not weaknesses, they are the compass to your freedom. Why is this unprecedented? In recent decades, Mercury, your ruler, has never shifted so violently within weeks, moving from diplomacy to depth, from harmony to truth. If you embrace this truth, however brutal, you unlock a new 14-year cycle of inner sovereignty. You cease being the shadow that appeases. You become the person who chooses herself. But if you deny, deflect, pretend nothing changed, you trap yourself in a recurring loop of betrayal, silence, and exhaustion that drains your spirit until 2039. So Virgo, pay attention. September through October 2025 will not gently nudge your life. It will dismantle it, rebuild it, rewrite it. You might think, "I'll wait. Things will settle." But time has run out. Fate does not ask, it demands. If you cling stubbornly to what no longer serves you, it will be ripped from your hands anyway. But if you choose conscious action, not resistance, not fear, you won't receive punishment, you'll receive power over your story, over your future. Remember, this is not about small adjustments. This is a complete reboot of your life script. To delay is to sign a contract with someone else's mistakes, to live in their shadow until 2039. Your only tools? Radical honesty with yourself and the courage to say no more. Dear Libra, ladies and gentlemen, celestial misfits, reluctant revolutionaries, welcome to the divine demolition derby of your former self. September and October of 2025 are not mere calendar pages flipping with autumn leaves. No, darling, they are astral jackhammers cracking open the pavement of your polite, well-behaved, soul-sucking existence. Everything you thought you knew about love, duty, decorum, and that weird habit of apologizing for existing is being gently, then not so gently, tossed into the cosmic compost heap. This is not a forecast. This is a celestial eviction notice signed in stardust and sealed with a smirk. Wake up now, or spend the next 12 years whispering "what if" into your lukewarm tea. September 15th, 2025, Venus winks at Mars and suddenly you remember how to want. The 15th, the day your soul dusts off its dancing shoes and says, "Enough of this wallflower nonsense." Venus, your celestial queen of velvet desires, slips into a sextile with Mars, that red-faced god of just do it already, and oh, what sweet chaos they brew. For the first time in eons you feel it, that electric hum beneath your ribs. I don't need permission to want. I don't need a committee to approve my joy. This isn't fireworks, it's the quiet click of a lock turning in your chest, the one that kept your dreams in polite captivity. Suddenly you say what you feel. You send that resume, you draw that boundary, you kiss that person. You quit that soul-sucking job, not because it's logical, because your bones finally remember, this is mine to claim. September 21st. Saturn knocks and he's not here for small talk. Enter Saturn, cosmic headmaster, karmic accountant, and the universe's least fun party guest. He arrives precisely when the sun in your sign stares him down in opposition. Translation: the polite mask slips. The compromises crack. The "I'll just make everyone happy" strategy implodes like a souffle dropped from a third-floor balcony. This is the day you choose. Continue being everyone's emotional doormat, or stand up, dust off your dignity and say, actually no. You'll feel it. That strange exhaustion of being good. That quiet rage at yourself for folding again. And then the glorious snap. You tell your boss he's wrong. You tell your mother her advice is outdated. You tell your partner, "I'm not your emotional janitor." Saturn doesn't punish, he liberates. He hands you the keys to your adult life. Worn, heavy, real. Use them. October 1st, Mercury and Jupiter. Throw a philosophical punch-up in your brain. Imagine your mind as a tidy library. Now imagine Jupiter, cosmic philosopher, truth-teller, an enthusiastic book flinger. Storming in, knocking over shelves and yelling, "Who decided this was true?" Mercury, ever the diplomat, tries to restore order, but no. The old script. Success looks like this. Love requires that. You must be this to be worthy. You are tossed out the stained glass window. You start thinking dangerous thoughts like, "I hate my job. I don't love them. I don't care about prestige. I want joy, not justification." This is the day your intuition elbows logic in the ribs and says, "Sit down, I've got this. Stop fearing being wrong. Start trusting being you." Write down what your soul whispers, not what LinkedIn recommends. The next 12 years, built on this rebellion. October 14th, Venus and Uranus throw a rave in your destiny. Cue the glitter cannons. Venus, draped in electric silk, dances in trine with Uranus. The planet of holy chaos, radical reinvention, and why not, church energy. This is the day the universe hands you a golden ticket to the life you secretly scribbled in your teenage diary. Money, it flows when you stop begging and start being boldly, unapologetically you love. You stop settling for fine and start magnetizing souls who see your weird, wild truth. And cheer for it. Old ties unravel like cheap sweaters. New ones snap into place with magnetic force. That person everyone says is wrong for you, they're your portal. That idea you were too shy to voice, it's your new empire. Uranus doesn't believe in second chances. He believes in lightning strikes. Catch it. The road to 2037, no maps, no apologies, no retreat. The pause is over, the curtain has risen. The universe is holding your coat. Go. Not because you're ready, but because you're alive. And that's reason enough. Hey Scorpio, darling, you've been holding your breath since last Tuesday, haven't you? Well, the cosmos has finally stopped whispering and started screaming into a megaphone made of starlight and old secrets. This September and October aren't just changing your life. They're hitting the factory reset button on your soul, your power, your inner monologue that's been running on loop since 2013. And yes, even that one toxic relationship you keep calling a learning experience. 4 celestial artillery shells, rare as unicorn espresso, are detonating precisely where you're most tender and most terrifyingly strong. The world won't recognize you when you emerge, and honestly, neither will you. This isn't astrology, it's a survival manual written in blood, ink, and the size of 10,000 repressed truths. On September 17th, Mercury, that sardonic gossip with a PhD in emotional archaeology, plunges into Scorpio's velvet darkness and locks eyes with Saturn, the stern karmic librarian, who's been quietly stamping your file. do not trust for decades. Their opposition isn't an aspect, it's a courtroom verdict. Silence? Gone, like your ex's text replies after 3 months of radio silence. From this moment, every unspoken word, every lie you told yourself to avoid conflict, every time you smiled while your soul screamed into a pillow, that's all coming up for audit. You thought you were protecting yourself by staying quiet. Turns out you were just building a mausoleum for your authenticity. Now the walls are crumbling. The universe doesn't want your compliance anymore. It wants your voice, raw and trembling and glorious like a soprano hitting a high C during a thunderstorm. Speak not to burn bridges, but to light torches. Write if your throat closes. Stop bargaining with your conscience like it's a used car salesman. Your mind isn't a weapon. It's a sacred chisel, carving your true self out of the marble of fear. And then, September 24, Mars, your inner lion wrapped in leather and vengeance, squares Pluto in Aquarius, retrograde and grinning like a monk who just discovered Reddit. This isn't anger, this is your shadow rising from the basement, wearing your favorite coat, drinking your whiskey and saying, I've been waiting for you to notice me. Everything you stuffed down, the rage over being ignored, the jealousy you called caring, the hunger for control disguised as responsibility, all of it explodes like a piñata full of glitter bombs and unresolved trauma. You'll scream at your boss, you'll delete the group chat, you'll say, I'm done, and mean it so hard the earth trembles. But here's the twist. You don't get to destroy everything beautiful just because it hurt. Don't torch the garden because one rose had thorns. Pause, breathe. Ask, who am I angry at? Or who did I become to survive them? Turn fury into strategy. Let shame fuel your rebirth. Choose, be the ghost haunting your past, or the phoenix who burns so brightly others mistake you for sunrise. Then October 7th, Mercury and Pluto meet again, and oh honey, they bring the truth serum. You've spent years being the detective who saw everything but said nothing, the psychic who read souls but never dared to read herself. Now your thoughts are being hacked, not by hackers, but by your own subconscious, which has been typing furious letters to you in invisible ink. Every hidden conversation, every lie you told to seem safe, every time you nodded while thinking, I hate this, all of it surfaces like receipts from a credit card you forgot you owned. Your intellect? It's no longer armor, it's a mirror, and it's showing you the face you've been avoiding since college. No more hiding behind cleverness, no more pretending you didn't know. One question from a friend, one email from your mother, one silence too long, and suddenly the roles you wore like cheap Halloween costumes just fall off. Your voice now heals or destroys. Choose wisely. Speak not to wound, but to cleanse. Say what terrifies you. Let others say what you've buried. This isn't therapy. This is liberation with teeth. Finally, you can speak the truth you've been rehearsing in your head since 2008. The one you feared would shatter everything. Good, let it shatter, then rebuild something real. And then, October 20, the final act. Mercury and Mars collide in Scorpio like two supernovas having a passionate, silent argument. Word becomes deed, thought becomes action, intention becomes irrevocable. No more wondering, no more waiting for permission. You don't need a spreadsheet to decide anymore, you just do. You say, I'm leaving. You hit send on the proposal you've been drafting since your last breakup. You look your parent in the eye and say, no, I won't come home for Christmas. Not with drama, not with guilt, just clarity, cold, precise, unapologetic. This isn't impulsive, it's the culmination of 14 years of silent screaming. You're not acting out, you're acting up. The risk, yes, you might lose someone, you might ruin a career path you thought was safe, but you'll gain something rarer. Your sovereignty. You stop being the character in someone else's story. You become the author, the editor, and the damn printer. So here we are, Scorpio. Autumn doesn't knock. It kicks the door in, wearing combat boots and carrying your childhood diary. There's no vote, no counsel, no pep talk from your bestie. Just you standing before the mirror, covered in dust and diamonds, asking, who am I when I stop performing? The lies you clung to, they're gone. The fears you fed, starved. The silence you mistook for strength, exposed as cowardice in a silk robe. You don't need advice anymore, you need courage. And you've had it all along, you just forgot where you hid it. Behind the sarcasm, behind the intensity, behind the I'm fine. So go ahead, speak, walk, burn, build. The next 14 years belong to you, and darling, they're going to be glorious. Hey Sagittarius, September 2025 isn't just a month, It's the cosmic sigh you've been holding since your last birthday party, when you swore you'd finally grow up and get your life together, only to end up arguing with a houseplant over who owed whom emotional support. Enough digging through old text threads like they're buried treasure in a sitcom where everyone's still mad at you for borrowing their favorite sweater in 2017. Stop performing self-improvement as if it's a Netflix series you keep pausing to order pizza. This isn't a slow burn drama, it's a fireworks finale, and the fuse has been lit. The lunar eclipse on September 7th doesn't whisper, it roars. Pisces, that dreamy, tear-stained poet of the Zodiac, throws a blanket over your family drama, your unpaid bills, your mother's passive-aggressive, "I didn't say anything" texts, and says, enough. Not gently, not kindly. With the force of a cat knocking over your entire bookshelf because you dared to sit in its chair. Old resentments? They'll surface like uninvited guests at your own funeral, awkward, loud, and oddly predictable. But here's the twist. You won't scream, you won't cry, you'll just stand up, walk out, lock the door, and maybe leave a note. I'm not angry, I'm just done. For some, this means a dinner table revelation so honest it leaves the gravy untouched. For others, it's a one-way ticket to a city where no one knows your ex's middle name. Couples? The truth will crawl out of the couch cushions like a startled raccoon. Infidelity, silence, or that lingering suspicion that your partner thinks quality time means scrolling side by side while pretending to care. Choose, close the chapter or close the relationship. Either way, you win if you do it without theatrics, because melodrama is so 2019. Singles, your ghost from 3 breakups ago might text you out of nowhere, not to reconcile, but to apologize for being emotionally constipated. And then money arrives, not with trumpets, but with the quiet hum of an overdue loan repaid, a stranger buying your useless Etsy candle collection, or a lottery ticket you forgot you bought that somehow won you enough to finally fix your leaky faucet. It's not wealth, it's freed energy. Like finding $5 in an old coat pocket after years of thinking your wallet was cursed. Toxic people, they don't vanish, they evaporate. Like bad cologne in a sauna. Just stop feeding them, don't argue, don't explain. Let the moon be your bouncer. It's brutal, it's messy, it's necessary. And yes, it works. Then on September 12th, Mercury and Jupiter high-five across the heavens like 2 drunken bartenders who just realized they've been serving champagne in wine glasses all along, and suddenly doors open. Not metaphorical ones, actual ones, and old friend messages. Remember that idea we had in college? Still think it's genius. A LinkedIn connection you haven't spoken to since 2021 offers you a partnership. Your ex sends a PDF titled Business Opportunity, no strings attached, probably. Say yes if it smells like opportunity, not desperation. If it requires you to lie, hustle, or pretend you know what blockchain means, walk away. What happens between the 11th and 14th? That's not luck, that's architecture. You're laying bricks. Mercury gives you the words, Jupiter gives you the megaphone, and suddenly you're not begging for attention, you're attracting it. Online trolls, let them tweet. Your calm silence becomes your brand. Entrepreneurs, ignore every get-rich-quick scheme that promises freedom via affiliate links and a llama named Destiny. Real money comes from real conversations with real humans who have bank accounts and boundaries. Don't wait, don't overthink. The universe isn't texting you back slowly, it's knocking on your door with a suitcase full of cash and a receipt for your dignity. By September 20th, Venus squares Uranus like a dramatic telenovela star flipping a table mid-sentence, while the Sun glares at Saturn like a parent who's seen one too many late-night TikToks. Women Sagittarius, you've spent years excusing your partner's emotional absence like it's a seasonal allergy. He's just stressed. He's busy. He's a man. He doesn't know how to cry. Now, you look at him and you realize he's not stressed. He's just lazy. And you're tired of being the therapist, the chef, the emotional ATM, so you speak or you leave. Or you start sleeping on the couch like a dignified queen reclaiming her throne. Men Sagittarius, you've been silently screaming into your pillow for months, wondering why your partner needs to discuss everything every night like you're in a therapy session disguised as a marriage. You want silence, space, a nap, a vacation to a place without Wi-Fi. And guess what? You're allowed. This isn't abandonment, it's evolution. One person wants warmth, the other needs oxygen. Neither is wrong, both are exhausted. And when the Sun opposes Saturn, it's not punishment, it's permission. Permission to quit the soul-crushing job, to move across the country, to end the relationship that's been running on fumes since Obama was president. If you've been doing someone else's work for less than minimum wage, congratulations, you've earned the right to walk out. And if you do, by October you'll be somewhere better, with better people, better pay, better sleep. This isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough dressed in sweatpants and existential clarity. Then, on the 23rd, the sun dances with Neptune and Uranus in a celestial waltz so elegant, even Pluto claps. Everything you thought was solid, your career path, your home, your sense of identity, suddenly feels like an IKEA shelf assembled with instructions written in hieroglyphics. Good, that's not chaos, that's recalibration. You're not falling apart, you're upgrading. Your exhaustion, not from the workload, from the role you assigned yourself, the responsible one, the fixer, the emotional dumpster, rip it off like a band-aid you've worn for 10 years. Suddenly your health improves, your bills get cheaper, someone pays you back, your washing machine stops breaking. The universe whispers, you didn't earn this, you simply stopped fighting it, no grand plan, no spreadsheets, just alignment. And you? You stop trying to please everyone, you stop explaining yourself, you let your silence speak louder than your old Instagram captions ever did. And then, September 24th. Pluto, the silent monk of the underworld, places a hand on your shoulder and says, you've suffered enough. Now take control. The fog lifts, the panic fades. You wake up knowing exactly who you are again, not the version you became to survive, but the one you were meant to be. At work, you're no longer scraping by on side gigs. You're paid properly, people listen. You ask for the promotion, you ask for the flexible hours, you say, I'm worth more. And it doesn't feel brave, it feels obvious. In love, you stop chasing ghosts, you stop tolerating noise. You finally see who belongs beside you and who's just there because they like your snacks. Your body exhales, your sleep deepens. Your anxiety, it's packing its bags and leaving quietly, like a roommate who owes you rent but never asked for forgiveness. This isn't just stability, it's the first time in decades, maybe ever, that you can stand barefoot on your own ground and say, this is mine. So here it is, Sagittarius, the moment you've been waiting for isn't coming. It's already here, stop fighting, start living. Hey, Capricorn. September has arrived, not with a whisper, but with the thunderous clink of champagne flutes at a funeral, because the old you is dead and the new one. She's wearing designer heels while sipping espresso in a boardroom she finally owns. This isn't astrology, it's a cosmic eviction notice for your self-sacrificing ghost. For years, you've been the human ATM who never got a receipt, the quiet hero who cleaned up other people's messes while their names lit up the awards ceremony. But now the stars have rolled up their sleeves, cracked their knuckles and said, enough! 4 planetary gears grind into perfect sync, like a Swiss watch made by a vengeful engineer, and suddenly everyone's dirty laundry is airing on the balcony of your life. The colleague who stole your idea, he's now giving TED Talks about it. The friend who borrowed your last cent and called it a gift, she just posted a vacation photo from Bali. And that partner who treated your loyalty like a free subscription to emotional labor, turns out they were just waiting for you to stop talking so they could finally hear themselves think. On September 13th, Mercury dives headfirst into the sun's golden core, a celestial kiss known as GEMINI, the kind of rare alignment that turns whispers into war cries. Suddenly, the fog lifts. You see the smiles that weren't smiles, the nods that weren't agreement, the I've got your back that meant I've got your credit score. No more polite silence, no more swallowing bile like it's a daily vitamin. You stand there, calm as a monk who just discovered his monkhood was funded by someone else's unpaid overtime, and say, I did this, you didn't. And oh, how the silence that follows is sweeter than any apology. The resentment you carried like a weighted blanket, it evaporates. Not because you forgave, but because you realized you were never the problem. You're no longer the shadow behind the spotlight, you're the spotlight, and your presence casts such a long, elegant shade that even your enemies can't help but admire it. Welcome to your reign. Then comes September 18th, the day your tongue gains wings and your voice becomes a legal document. Mercury in Libra, dancing with Uranus and Pluto, turns your words into velvet-gloved bricks. You stop smoothing edges to keep peace. You stop apologizing for existing. You speak, and suddenly the room leans in, not because you raised your voice, but because you stop begging for permission to be heard. Your boss pauses mid-sentence. Your sibling actually says, you're right. Even your cat seems to nod, then slowly turns away as if to say, finally, took you long enough? This isn't rebellion, it's recalibration. Your opinions are no longer suggestions, they're blueprints. Your decisions aren't requests, they're mandates. And the universe, ever the dramatic playwright, ensures that every choice you make now echoes through 2037 like a perfectly timed bass drop in a symphony. You stop proving your worth, you simply are worthy. And now, the world has no choice but to notice. But here's where things get spicy. September 20th arrives with Venus squaring Uranus and the Sun locking arms with Saturn. A financial earthquake disguised as a gentle nudge. The paycheck that used to feel like a lifeline, turns out it was a leash. The stable job that promised security, it was a gilded cage with Wi-Fi, and now the walls are crumbling. Good. Because what emerges from the rubble isn't panic, it's possibility. Maybe you start that side hustle you kept calling just a hobby. Maybe you sell the house you hated, buy a tiny cabin by the sea and turn it into a podcast studio where you rant beautifully about capitalism. Maybe you finally cut off the family member who treated your kindness like an infinite buffet. Whatever it is, it's yours, and it terrifies you, which means you're doing it right. Money stops being a source of dread and becomes your loyal hound, fetching opportunities, guarding your peace, wagging its tail when you pay yourself first. The key? Stop asking for permission, start building your own table. And if someone says, but what if it fails? Smile sweetly and say, what if it doesn't? And then September 24th, the grand finale, where love gets a serious makeover. No more settling for lukewarm affection served in chipped mugs. No more pretending that silence equals intimacy or that cold shoulders are just their way. If your partner still thinks emotional labor means remembering to take out the trash while ignoring your soul's existential crisis, it's time to let them go, with grace, with dignity, and possibly a mildly sarcastic thank you note. Or if fate is feeling generous, an old flame returns, not to haunt you but to apologize, to change, to show up fully. And if they do, you don't hug them immediately, you look them in the eye and say, prove it, then you watch. Love isn't a rescue mission anymore, it's a partnership. Two adults choosing each other, not because they're broken, but because they're whole. And if you find that, hold it like a rare orchid, water it, protect it, let it bloom without guilt, because for 12 years you won't need to beg for warmth, you'll be the sun. So Capricorn, this isn't horoscope fluff. This is your ancestral inheritance handed to you by the cosmos in a velvet box lined with glittering consequences. You've spent decades building castles on sand, hoping someone would notice your effort. Now the tide has receded, the sand is gone, and beneath it bedrock, solid, unshakable. The question isn't whether you're ready, it's whether you're brave enough to walk forward, not backward, not sideways, but straight into the future you've been too afraid to claim. The clock is ticking, the stage is set, your crown is heavy, but you were born to wear it. Hey Aquarians, September and October 2025 aren't just months, they're the universe clearing its throat, adjusting its tie, and saying, all right, darling, you've waited long enough. For decades, you've been the quiet genius in the corner, sipping chamomile while everyone else shouted into microphones. But now, the cosmic stage lights have snapped on, the velvet curtain has ripped open, and Mercury, your mercurial muse, has traded its grey suit for a sequined jumpsuit and is strutting through Purva Falguni like it's opening night at Vegas. No more whispering ideas into voids. No more apologizing for brilliance that doesn't come with a user manual. If you've got a product, a pitch, a poem, or a patented way of making people pause mid-sentence when you walk in, launch it. Not as a side hustle, not as a maybe someday. Launch it like you're throwing confetti at a funeral for your old self. Financial tides are rising. Not gently, not politely, but with the force of 1,000 LinkedIn influencers finally getting paid. Freelance gigs materialize like magic mushrooms after rain. Deals once sabotaged by jealous ex-colleagues. Now they arrive with handwritten apologies and a bonus check tucked inside. And oh, the inner reckoning. Purva Falguni doesn't ask nicely. It kicks down the door of your soul and says, who are all these people sucking your aura like vampires at a brunch buffet? That friend who just wanted to vent but left you emotionally drained? Gone. That colleague whose smile could curdle milk vanished from your DMs. That relative who called your passion a cute hobby while quietly copying your business model, they're now just a blurry face in your rearview mirror, waving goodbye as you accelerate toward your own damn glory. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. And yes, romance might flicker back to life, but don't mistake it for destiny. This is reset season, not soulmate season. Your currency now? Creativity, courage, cash, and the sacred art of saying no thank you. I'm building an empire, not a support group. Then comes Venus, gliding into Makkah like a queen who's just discovered her crown was made of plastic and she's had enough. She peels back every illusion like a poorly glued birthday present. The partner who swore he'd change but spent 5 years watching Netflix in silence. Exposed. The relationship where love felt like a job interview you never got hired for, collapsed under its own weight. The man who pretended to be strong but was really just good at avoiding accountability. He's now a footnote in your memoir titled, How I Learned to Stop Caring. Women Aquarians will suddenly realize they don't need a knight in armor. They need a co-pilot who knows how to use a GPS. Men? They'll stare at their reflection and realize the flirtation on the side wasn't exciting. It was exhausting. But here's the twist. This isn't tragedy. It's transcendence. Makkah doesn't break hearts. It breaks illusions. And what remains? A throne, a reputation. A promotion you were told you weren't ready for, a client who finally sees you as the visionary you've always been. Money? It stops trickling. It starts pouring because you stopped begging for scraps and started serving feasts. By September 20th, Mercury trades his showbiz flair for a surgeon's scalpel. Hasta arrives, calm, precise, unimpressed by chaos. Suddenly, you don't just think, you architect. The mental fog lifts. Ideas buried under years of I'll do it later rise like phoenixes wearing business cards. The person who ghosted you 5 years ago texts, "Hey, still doing that thing? Can we talk?" The project everyone laughed at. Now it's funded by a Silicon Valley billionaire who says, "I wish I'd thought of that." Karmic debts? Not repaid, redeemed. Even your old boss, who fired you for being too different, now sends you a LinkedIn note. "You were right, I was wrong. Can I invest?" Meanwhile, your body remembers how to breathe, sleep returns. Anxiety evaporates like morning mist over a yoga retreat in Bali. You stop burning out because you finally stopped burning yourself alive for others' approval. And then the whisper, enough, not loud, not dramatic, just enough. It settles in your bones like warm tea on a winter night. You stop performing, you stop explaining, you stop shrinking, you begin choosing with elegance, with silence, with unstoppable grace. You start earning not because you're desperate, but because you're undeniable. Karma, once your judge, now hands you the keys to the kingdom. You're not lucky, you're deserved. October 6th, Venus slips into Uttara Falguni. The moment fate leans in, winks and whispers, "Baby, you're my favorite." Lost things return, but better. Relationships that were shaky become solid. Silence turns into conversations that last until sunrise. Loneliness, it didn't vanish. It evolved into companionship with depth, warmth, and zero emotional blackmail. You no longer chase attention, you radiate it. People find you, they crave you, they want to sit at your table, not because you invited them, but because you stopped needing them to. Finances, they don't just grow, they bloom. Bonuses arrive like surprise gifts wrapped in silk. Clients pay up front. Investments yield dividends you didn't even know existed. And the most beautiful part, you don't have to prove anything anymore, not to them, not to yourself. You simply are. And that's enough. Then on October 16th, Mercury enters Vishaka, the celestial workshop where dreams get blueprints and weirdos become legends. Here, your mind, once dismissed as too abstract, too intense, not relatable, is now auctioned off at Sotheby's. Every sentence you speak carries weight. Every idea you toss into the air becomes a company. Every conversation sparks a movement. You stop apologizing for being the one who saw the future before anyone else dared blink. You stop asking permission. You stop wondering if you're too much. You are exactly enough. And the universe, it's applauding, loudly, in slow motion, with fireworks. And finally, on October 17th, Venus slips into Hasta. The crown slipped snugly onto your head. The throne already polished. The power yours to wield, not beg for. Want family? It walks in, carrying wine and wisdom. Want freedom? It arrives without explosions, just quiet doors swinging open. Want respect? You don't earn it, you embody it, everything you fought for, prayed for, cried over, whispered into pillows at 3 a.m. It's here. Not because fate owed you, but because you refused to let go of yourself, even when the world tried to fold you into a box labeled normal. This isn't luck, this isn't magic, this is the quiet, furious triumph of a soul who refused to disappear. You didn't wait for permission, you built your own sky, and now the stars are yours to name. Hey Pisces, there are moments, rare, quiet, and utterly unannounced, when the universe, in its infinite, slightly mischievous wisdom, decides to take a breath. And not just any breath, but the kind you exhale after holding it for 17 years while waiting for someone to finally notice you've been standing there, holding a perfectly good heart like a half-eaten souffle, hoping it won't collapse. And then, click, the doors that have been welded shut since your last incarnation swing open with the grace of a Bollywood dancer slipping out of a sari at a yoga retreat. Welcome, Pisces. You're no longer the cosmic understudy. You're the lead. Not because you screamed louder or cried harder, but because you kept showing up, even when the script was written in invisible ink, even when the stage lights flickered like a faulty neon sign reading, "Hope here maybe." And oh, how the stars have noticed. From September through October, Mercury strolls through Purva Falguni like a poet who just discovered espresso. And suddenly, Pisces aren't just feeling, they're flickering. Women feel their bodies remember how to hum. Their eyes, once clouded by the fog of overthinking, now gleam like wet pavement after rain, reflecting everything yet holding nothing back. Flirtations arrive via text like unexpected bouquets from strangers who used to mute you on Instagram. Men receive messages from exes who suddenly remember they loved your laugh, or maybe just your ability to cook pasta without burning it. But this isn't nostalgia, it's a mirror held up by fate, whispering, "Look how far you've come, look how much lighter you are." Love triangles? They're not plot twists anymore. They're emotional laundry left too long in the washing machine. Now they're being gently spun dry by time, not drama. But here's the twist, darling. If you think this is all about romance, you're mistaking the symphony for the tambourine. On September 14th, Venus glides into Makkah, and suddenly your worth isn't whispered. It's announced over a public address system while you're quietly trying to pay your electricity bill. The boss who never acknowledged your ideas now sends you a handwritten note. You were right. The colleague who stole your lunch in 2019 vanished, like a ghost who realized you'd grown a spine. This isn't luck, it's karma doing what it does best, handing you the keys to your own throne while reminding you sweetly that you didn't need to beg for it. For women Pisces who thought love meant surviving on crumbs of attention, this is the moment the fridge fills itself with organic honey, artisanal cheese, and a man who doesn't say, "I'm busy" when you cry. He just sits beside you, quietly, solidly, like a well-made cup of tea that doesn't spill. Then comes Mercury in Hasta, precision incarnate, and suddenly your dreams stop floating like dandelion fluff and start arriving as wire transfers. That idea you shelved because it's too niche, a publisher wants it. That side hustles you did for free because it felt right. Now it pays more than your old job. Debts dissolve like sugar in hot chai. Promotions land like surprise birthday parties thrown by your future self. And yes, the universe notices if you still pretend you're not ready. She doesn't scold, you can almost hear her sigh, "Again? Really?" And then she turns up the volume on your courage until even your doubts start applauding. October 6th brings Venus into Uttara Falguni, the final exam in emotional maturity. No more dancing around the truth. No more pretending your ex's just checking in text wasn't an emotional Hoover vacuum. This is the moment you choose. Do you keep spinning in the carousel of what-ifs? Or do you step off, brush off your sandals, and walk into a life that doesn't require performance? For men Pisces, it's brutal and beautiful. The past knocks not to rekindle, but to test. Are you still chasing ghosts, or have you finally bought the house? If you answer honestly, "I am done," then the universe hands you a certificate signed by your soul, stamped authenticity approved. And then on October 16th, Mercury enters Vishaka, the cosmic seal. All that sweat, all those silent nights, all the times you chose peace over panic, faith over fear, it crystallizes. Money arrives from places you swore didn't exist. Projects that died in the freezer, thaw and bloom like orchids in Siberia. People who called you a dreamer now ask for your business card. You didn't win the lottery. You outlasted the storm. And the 8th and 11th houses? They're throwing a masquerade ball where your deepest transformations dance with collective triumphs, glittering and loud. Finally, on October 17th, Venus slips back into Hasta. Final act curtain call. The illusions? They're being politely escorted out by a team of very calm, very firm astrologers in linen suits. What you called love. Sometimes it was just loneliness wearing perfume. What you called passion. Often it was fear dressed in silk. Now you see clearly. Friends who used to drain you like vampire bats at a brunch buffet? Gone. Not because you cut them out, but because you stopped giving them oxygen, and in the space they left, new connections emerge, quiet, steady, real. Not the kind you find on dating apps. The kind you meet at the grocery store and realize you've been waiting for since childhood. So here you are, Pisces, no longer the ocean that swallows every wave, but the tide that knows exactly when to rise, when to recede, and when to let the moon do the work. You didn't fight your karma, you outgrew it. You didn't chase love, you became so whole, it had no choice but to find you. You didn't wait for permission, you gave it to yourself in whispers at 3 a.m., in tears that turned into laughter, in silence that finally felt like home. The universe didn't bless you because you deserved it, it blessed you because you stopped asking if you did. And now, you're not just lucky, you're legendary. And the next chapter, only your desire gets to write it, gets to.
And that's a wrap, my starry-eyed friends. Remember, the universe sends whispers, not shouts, so tune in and trust the process. If you enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more astro insights, and leave a comment to share your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious, stay magical, and keep shining like the star you are. Meow, off.